Liz Truss, of course, looking at what she's been saying today. Topic, bankers' bonuses is coming up, but also Biden has had a lot to say. Bring us up to speed.
Yeah, well, just first of all, in the last couple of minutes, some breaking news actually from the Prime Minister in regards to Ukraine largely, and that is that 5 British nationals who were being effectively detained by Russian-backed separatists in Ukraine have now been released. We know that the British government, MPs have been working pretty hard on this to try and get those British nationals released. Liz Truss in the last couple of minutes, Michelle, tweeting that hugely welcome news that 5 British nationals held by those Russian-backed proxies in eastern Ukraine are being safely returned, ending the months of uncertainty and suffering for the family. She goes on to thank the efforts of President Zelensky in Ukraine and also Saudi Arabia, interestingly, for their assistance. I'm not entirely sure what Saudi Arabia's role in all of this was, but I'm sure that will come to light as the hours tick by. She also says that Russia must end their ruthless exploitation of prisoners of war and civilian detainees for its political ends. So that news just reaching us here in New York, that those 5 British nationals who the British government have been working for the last couple of weeks and months to release, who've been held by Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine, have now been released. As you say, it is Ukraine that's dominating clearly the agenda here. We heard from President Biden, pretty punchy speech a little bit earlier on, talking about how this was an outrageous war of aggression and that it needed to end, that it was breaking the UN Charter, though of course the UN's pretty impotent, aren't they, Michelle, in all of this, not least of all because Russia is a permanent member of the UN Security Council and effectively also have China's backing. Though we are expecting Liz Truss and Joe Biden to have a meeting pretty shortly here at the United Nations, and again we're going to see a show of solidarity. It is very clear that Liz Truss is determined to show that she is taking an equally consistent line in terms of the government's approach to all of this, given where Boris Johnson was coming from. But it is also interesting to note, as you have just done in the intro, that actually lots of the domestic focus at home here has not been necessarily solely on Ukraine. It's been on some of the big announcements that we have had and are expecting from the UK government this week, because clearly during that national period of mourning, and Liz Truss has only been Prime Minister for a couple of weeks, we didn't really get a chance to find out what her intentions were when it comes, as you say, to lifting the cap on bankers' bonuses or indeed tax cuts, whether it comes in the form of rolling back that national insurance rise, whether it comes in the form of cutting corporation tax or even stamp duty, as has been suggested in some of the newspapers today. We're going to find out tomorrow at that so-called fiscal event in Parliament. Not tomorrow, sorry, Friday. Yeah, Friday, I think. Keep getting confused by the days with the time zone here. So that will be interesting. But what is equally interesting is Liz Truss says that she is determined to go ahead with all of this, even in the short term. That means that she's unpopular with the public. Even if people do not like this, she reckons ideologically she is right, and that in the end it is what will win through in trying to return some strong economic growth to the British economy. It's an interesting line to take, isn't it? A Prime Minister essentially saying, I'm going to do what I think is the right thing, even if it proves to be unpopular, because I think it's the right thing. And in the end, maybe she's right. In the end, though, the argument will be, it's not whether she's right or wrong at the moment, whether the proof is in the pudding, whether the action, those tax cuts, will actually restore economic growth and indeed boost Britain's economic confidence on the world stage, because at the moment clearly lots of economists don't necessarily agree with her. Sterling's taking a bit of a pounding at the moment, isn't it?
Indeed it is.